here is Dana and I talking about saluting and about how horse showing is a lot like gambling. You put your money down, you take your chances. Kind of unique for people too is, we don't actually, the rider is required to salute to the judge.
Hmm.
And that salute generally constitutes that they take their hand off the rein. It can be either hand, but the judge is generally looking for the right hand to come off, but it isn't required to be the right. They have to see that your hand comes off the rein, and the salute is generally that the hand comes off the rein and that there's a nod, then you put your hand back on the reins.
Hmm.
If that doesn't happen, it's an error of test. And it's one of the errors that's cumulative. So let's say you forget and turn the wrong way also at E and B. So
Hmm.
that would be you first left out the salute, and then second, you didn't turn. So that's two errors. And if you accumulate three errors, you're eliminated.
Hmm.
So it's important that you take your hand off the rein. Well, here's the next part. There's no rule that says that the judge has to salute you back,
Hmm.
but it is custom. They almost always do, and they acknowledge you. So let's say that you're someplace where it's raining and the judge is sitting in a car or a truck judging. You'll see the craziest things. They'll wave their hand around the windshield out the window at you to let you know that they're ready after you've saluted. They may touch the horn, beep, a little beep, or they might wave at you, but they generally acknowledge you. They're not
Hmm.
required to, but they generally do. If you come in and you salute and you're looking up at the judge, and you should be looking at the judge when you salute because you're saluting them. So look at them and you see that they didn't stand up or they didn't wave, or you have the feeling that they're preoccupied. Like, what if something weird's going on in the booth? Like they seem to be mopping up coffee and they're looking down, and you're like, they're
Hmm.
not looking at me.
Hmm.
I don't want to go forward yet. They're not looking at me
Yeah.
because what if it is the snake? Like
Yes.
stuff can be
Something
going on
crazy.
in the box. Stuff can be, I mean, I'm supposed to be paying attention every minute, but crazy stuff can happen. Like I start judging you, and then my scribe tells me, oh my gosh, I have the wrong paper. And then I look over for a second and I'm trying to help her get the paper.
Hmm.
And so maybe I didn't acknowledge your salute. If you don't think that they're ready, or you don't think that they saw you take your hand off the rein, salute again.
Hmm.
Stand there and take your hand off the rein again until they acknowledge you. And they
So you're
may
not
be,
going to get penalized if you re-salute.
no,
Okay.
no, I have probably done that. I mean, I've been showing since 1971 in dressage,
Hmm.
but I've probably done it 10 times at least. It's not
Hmm.
uncommon because I'm not sure they saw me do it. And if they don't see me take my hand off the rein, I get an error.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
Okay. Yeah. Like
and,
that's a
and
good thing to know because you can't just go to, so what you're saying is you can't just go down, keep holding your reins and just nod. You have
mm-mm.
got to remove your hand from that rein or it's an error.
Right. And
Got it.
here's the next worst part. So if you take your hand off the rein and then the horse does this and your hand is behind his neck,
Okay.
and they can't, from the front, the horse's neck covers your hand coming off.
Okay.
So if I take a hold of my horse's head with my reins all in the left hand, and I put my right hand out,
Hmm.
and then the horse curls his head around that way, and I go, I'm so experienced. I'm gonna go, crap. They can't see my hand off, so I'd lift my arm up some more,
Okay.
or I'd straighten my horse out with my left hand. I might pull on him, and it might lack harmony, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
make sure they see that my
Your
hand's
hand.
off, even
Yeah.
if I have to lift it up further.
Yeah.
Or I wait for the horse to uncurl because he looked at something, he went like that, and then he gets
Yeah.
straight, and then they can see my hand is off.
Hmm.
Because if they don't see your hand off,
Hmm.
the salute, the nod doesn't count. It's the hand off and the nod.
And the nod.
Yeah, yes.
And once you
So,
put your hand back on and you lift your head back up, because this was always my concern. It is okay to stand there for a couple seconds and take a pause and then proceed, because I know I was dealing with, I was just like, okay, like I nodded right off. So my horse is getting a little anxious because he feels my hand go back on, and that means go. And maybe per se, I wasn't quite ready to go. And now he has a cue I've taught him. When my hand goes back on, we go. And so I started to take a pause. And then I asked you, like, is my pause too long? Is the judge like, okay, come on, let's go? And you said, no, that was okay.
It is okay.
Mhm.
And a lot of judges stand up to acknowledge you. So when you come down, I blow the whistle and I stand up if I can. I stand up and you come down the center line and you halt and you salute. And
Mhm.
then I kind of nod at you or nod and wave because I'm standing up. And then I sit down.
Mhm.
Well, the problem for me is I'm pretty sure my chair is going to scrape when I sit down or do something that's kind of going to scare your horse. And so
Okay.
if you hesitate while I sit down for a second, you just give me like 1.5 seconds and I can get into my chair. I can pay attention better to you coming forward. So there are horses that won't stand steady for that and they've become, anticipatory. And there are people that if they let their horse get really settled, they lose impulsion. So they don't stop very long. And we get that. And you're allowed to, if you need to move along, you do. But
Okay.
if you're the person that needs to sit there for a second and get your act together,
Mhm.
I mean, if it was excessive, 3 or 4 seconds, I might start to think that maybe your horse won't go. But
Okay.
a couple of seconds is nothing, and it gives
Just
me a chance to
take a
sit
breath.
down and get my breath. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, wow, my mind would be like, wow, here's a sophisticated, poised competitor.
Mhm.
I'd be like, yeah, that's nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, kind of
I like
nice,
that.
actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And
here's a question I have for you too, because this has happened to me. So I come down, and then when I get to see to turn, it's a windy day and all of those papers flap up and I've had them fly off the table at my horse. Am I going to get penalized because those papers came flying off the table?
oh man, that is a tough thing. That
Okay.
falls right in there with luck, like the baby.
Okay. Like I just had bad luck that day, basically, and
You did,
horse
you
was
had really
slightly
bad luck.
distracted.
So what I'm hoping happened is that the judge rang the bell and stopped you.
Okay.
And I don't know if that happened, but this would be the judge has the right to stop the test at any moment if something's happening where she can't pay attention or something unusual is happening. And she's
Hmm.
just like, I need to stop this for a second. So,
Yeah.
if the papers were blowing into the ring and I felt like myself, or the scribe needed to jump out of the ring and gather up the papers, I would ring the bell and I'd say to you, hey, can you just stop for a second? We want to get these papers. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And we
Yeah.
get the papers, and then I'd say, hey, I already judged you to, like, let's say G, can you just
Mhm.
start the jog there and we'll progress.
And just do that movement back over
Yeah,
and got it.
yeah.
Luckily,
I
the
mean,
papers didn't blow all the way into the ring for me, but I'm glad to know that the judge might ring the bell or blow the whistle, because that also gives me anxiety when that happens, when I don't know why, to restart just that test. And then my horse is like, "Ooh," but
yeah,
he's like, okay, we'll go around.
yeah.
And I don't think there was any notations on there,
I
if I can
think
remember.
judges try to be really kind. Like, if they, like, I know I mentioned my chair scraping when I sit down because it's
Mhm.
really, really hard to stand up and sit down in some of these boxes.
Yeah.
It's really good for our health to do that. We sit too many hours and we want the competitor to know that we acknowledge them. So standing up and sitting down is very important to us for our health and our comfort, but also we want to acknowledge your salute and we want to be respectful. And it's one of the reasons we stand up is to be respectful to you. And
Mhm.
so it's really hard to sit down without that chair scraping. And I'm always like, oh, please, please be quiet. Like, I need to get set down comfortably and I don't want to disturb this horse.
Mhm.
If I see that I caused a disturbance, I try to treat that disturbance as lightly as possible because
Mhm.
I feel like I caused it. And that
Mhm.
judge probably didn't make a notation on your test because she felt like she was responsible for that disturbance.
Mhm.
And if they can be as fair as possible. I know I was judging whirls a couple of years ago, and I kept calling the management because one of the rings was right up next to the indoor arena wall, and I had this man spectator that kept sitting on the wall, and the dressage arena was like right there, and he's sitting on the wall, which means that he's leaning over and down over the horses as they go by,
Mhm.
which he's not supposed to do. And we kept calling for the announcer to announce, please don't sit on the wall of the arena, please don't lean over the wall of the arena. This guy did it again in the middle of somebody's test.
Mhm.
Um, and he had a bag of like McDonald's or something, and he was opening it and with the plastic and this horse had to go like right like this, right.
Yeah.
It disturbed that horse. That horse
Yeah.
jumped out in the middle of a movement,
Yeah.
and I was judging a whole class, and that was the only disturbance. That guy was up there, but it was the only disturbance that he caused. And I went really lightly on that horse on that
Mhm.
one disturbance because it was really unfair. And
Yeah.
finally, we got on the horn to the management and got them up there and got that guy off the wall
Mhm.
because he just, we had warned him and warned him and warned him,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't get off the wall. And finally, they got up there and gave him a talking to and said, you just ruined somebody's movement. Please get
Mhm.
off the wall.
Yeah.
I think this coming year that they said to us that, especially in that particular arena, that they were going to mark off a few of the first rows of seats
Yeah.
there, like put up some caution tape to keep people from getting in there
Absolutely. You
and
know,
keep.
they do that at the Mustang shows when they're doing the maneuvers class on, and most of the movements are on the rail. They
Okay.
do not allow anyone to sit in that first row right on the rail, you know, for that reason. One, these are, you know, horses that just are under saddle, but for that reason, so that there's not that disturbance for the horse and rider right there.
It's creepy and
Yeah.
it can be unsafe. And I mean, I I it surprises me the spectators that are up there, like the gentleman that was doing it, didn't realize. He seemed to be oblivious. You know, it's hard
Yeah.
to imagine that they don't get it. But in their defense, most of them don't get it. They
Yeah,
don't
they
understand
don't.
what they've done. And
Yeah.
so,
And I feel that because my first experience in a covered arena, you know, my horse was a little bit nervous, but being very good, but the covered arena made him just a little bit nervous. And unfortunately, on that day when we went in for our first class, there was somebody, they had metal bleachers on the side.
oh,
And somebody just walked up on the metal bleachers behind us. And as soon as we turned the corner, so we weren't even facing them, had a halter and lead rope with a metal chain and just,
ooh,
you know, chucked it next to him on the bleachers. And the noise that it made it sound like the roof was collapsing. It was just echoed. It was so loud. And we went from having a dressage test to looking like we were like performing in a Lip is Honor show. Basically what happened. I'm
airs
not
above
sure,
the ground.
all 4 feet off the ground. I'm not even sure how I stayed on. And yeah, he just was like this beautiful Lip is Honor. We gave the judge a really good show. You know, but I turned him around, and the poor horse, by the time when I got him stopped, he was shaking because he was just so scared. And here I am, like, no idea what to do. And I look at the judge, and she was so sweet. She looked at me and said, just take your time.
That's
Just
nice.
just take your time. And I just was like, okay, took a deep breath, gave him a pet. He relaxed. I walked off. He was a little nervous, and we ended up finishing our test. We, of course, had a lot of tension through our ride. Um, you know, and there was like a comment of just like, you know, unfortunate event causing some tension, like just recognizing that it was just not lucky for us to do
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
So I do want to say, like, if you are a spectator, please be courteous as to what you're
Yes.
doing on the outside, because that was actually a terrifying moment for me and my horse. And he is
And unsafe.
continuously still nervous in a covered arena.
Yeah.
And now reacts a lot more to noise. So
Yeah, it turned out to be unsafe. It was really unfortunate. You know,
Mhm,
there, the judge used that word unfortunate. You really felt
mhm.
like she was sympathetic. She understood there wasn't much to do.
Yeah.
I have to say, as a coach and a riding instructor, that I have always told people that showing was gambling.
Mhm.
Absolutely, it's gambling. You
Yeah.
put your money down and you're gonna lose it for sure, and you might get lucky and you might not, because when you get to a horse show, as much as you've trained and as much skill as you think you have prepared for, and everything is going fine at home, and you have this level of expertise going on at home that looks really good, you're
Mhm.
just gambling, because at any given moment, rain, thunderstorms, the person with the chain, the baby buggy comes by. I had a horse that I had taken to Europe, shown successfully there, really successfully, come back home at international levels, came back home, took him into a horse show, did not realize that the horse had never seen a Frisian before in his
Yeah.
lifetime. Went into the warm-up ring on this 18-hand horse that went absolutely ballistic on me, because a Frisian was just, loping around with its
Mhm.
feathers going glug glug glump, glug glug glump,
Yeah.
glug glug glump, and that this horse went bananas on me. I have never been so unsafe in my life.
Thanks for watching. If you like the information we provided today, don't forget, subscribe, like, and share. Also check out IdaNorrisDressage.com and Ida Norris Western Dressage on Facebook.